Top 50 One Piece characters of 2024. These are the people I'm not ranking because they got no feats. These are my honorable mentions, and these are the cap characters I'm not talking about because their powers are excessive. Shirahoshi is an ancient weapon when she's sad. Bony can theoretically become the strongest character in the series because of a whack devil fruit. The Gorosei can infinitely regenerate from anything as long as Imu is alive, even though most of them are weaker than the admirals. I have nothing else to say, so let's just do this.
I thought of something funnier than 24. 25.
So for the people who tuned in last year, you'll know I used a tier system to rank these characters. If you remember, D tier was Scabbard's level, and that's exactly what I have again. F tier was also featured on last year's list, containing the Tobi-Roppo members / some of the Straw Hats. There's no need for it because there isn't anyone that weak this time. See, the 9 Scabbards, while fatigued, are stated to be above the Tobi-Roppo, by extension the mid-tier Straw Hats. It's consistent as the Scabbards are able to take a beating from Kaido, whereas the Tobi-Roppo members are getting one shot by Big Mom. So to start off this list, we have Izo and Kinemon. Some of the Scabbards also got bumped off the list, and these two are next up on the chopping block. Above them, I have the Seraphim, who are all taking one spot. I could split all 7 up and try to rank them like that, yet there's no point to it as they're all portrayed in the exact same way, doing the same shit. The shit that they do though is pretty crazy.
Crazy, ain't it?
Just one of these units are able to overpower the bottom half of the Straw Hat crew. It usually comes down to a more powerful member like Sanji to save the day. Keep in mind this is all with their flames on, meaning they could be even faster, but at the expense of their invincibility. All of the Seraph have Paramecia abilities, allowing for insane combinations. Then on top of that, they are confirmed to have basic hockey usage in their Viver card. Fucking wild. Again, a single Seraphim unit is beating multiple Straw Hats at once. Those same Straw Hats who are in F tier. I also think a single Seraph unit is too much for Kinemon to handle. Depending on your interpretation, they could be higher, but I'll speak on that in a minute. At 47 is Kaku. He and Lucci are the strongest CP0 agents. If you remember, we had some of those on this tier last year. Kaku is definitely nowhere near the next tier though, as base Zoro no-diffs his full power. I place him slightly above the Seraph because he was able to outspeed S-Hawk, though later we see S-Hawk being able to react to his attacks. Kaku himself says the Seraphim are dangerous though. The whole reason he's knocked for half of Egghead was because he battled 2 of them, meaning one is most likely a match for him. 46 through 43 are Kappa, Jinbei, Ashura, and Denjiro. Same as last year, I don't think Jinbei will ever leave this spot until he gets a fair 1v1 to actually push his limits. All 4 of these characters perform very similar feats, being able to slightly damage Big Mom / Kaido. It's just Ashura has one better showing than Jinbei, then Denjiro is greater than that. Above these guys are Jack at 42, then Neko and Inu at 41. The Minks are pretty obvious, they're equals. If I split them up, they would be in the same spot anyway. Last year I had these 3 in the next tier, which I don't know what the fuck I was smoking because Jack is not that strong. If you believe the Seraphim are whooping the 9 Scabbards, then they would be above everyone mentioned so far. It's just that in my opinion, the top level vassals and Jinbei could probably beat a Seraphim unit. Who they can't beat though is Boa Hancock. So after years of speculation, Boa actually has scaling. As you can tell, she's definitely not first commander level or whatever y'all like to call her, because in S-Snake's Viver card, it's stated that the clone is on par with the original. The funny thing is, on par does not mean equals, but it also doesn't mean Boa is easily beating S-Snake. Hancock has no other scaling against this. It's pretty consistent, so yeah, she's Scabbard's level. The reason she's at the top of D tier is due to her insane abilities. This goes for S-Snake as well, but the Love fruit is broken. Boa can turn people to stone with just one kick. Since she's relative to these characters in terms of speed, that kick is landing regardless of whether Boa herself gets hit. It's also implied her powers can't be resisted by using Haki, and even so, no one in this tier has that level of Haki. So yeah, Hancock is still wild as hell. Probably a threat to those above her, except for our next character, number 39. Katakuri. Now I know I said last year that Kat was Tobi-Roppo level and was going to be easily bumped out this list. I was wrong, and you can see my renewed perspective in my new Katakuri video. To sum that up, Katakuri's agility plus future sight would be on the next tier in terms of speed. However, for attack power or endurance, he is worse than anybody on this list. Yes, even Kinemon. Now Cat does have a trident, making his attacks much more lethal, but his actual hockey-coated punches are literally Tobiropo level. This is as high as you can place him. If you want to argue, go to that video and yap all you want. Simultaneously, and I hate saying this about fast characters because this is what everybody says, it doesn't matter how strong you are if you can't hit your opponent. This is the only reason Katakuri is here. Nobody in D tier should be able to touch him. Even when they have better endurance, Katakuri can chip damage his way to the dub. It's simple. Problem is, everyone in the next tier is on Cat's level of speed. So let's talk about them. If I had to use the term commander level, C tier would be it. To explain this tier, we have to speak on the other Donut Man, Ace. In simple terms, all 9 scabbards could not do anything to the weakest version of Kaido. Ace was able to fight a greater emperor and perform better by himself. Spoiler alert, Marco is stronger than Ace, then everyone in C tier scales to him. It's also backed by the fact the rooftop fighters were able to fight 2 greater Yonko at once, with fewer people than the scabbards, some of those 5 being in this tier. To start, we have a very unexpected character though, Magellan. Most people put him on these lists because of his broken abilities, yet when you actually look at his scaling, Magellan's kinda cool. Shiryu is stated to fear Magellan despite them probably being equals, then Blackbeard considered Shiryu a threat. This is the same Blackbeard who defeated Ace, plus Magellan himself blitzed the Blackbeard pirates, but it can be argued they were off guard. Still, the Warden does have the most lethal moveset in the series besides Boa, though he definitely has more versatility. Go back and read the Impel Down arc. Magellan has tear gas bombs, hallucinogens, poison breath, not to mention his main poisons which already cause paralysis and give you a one-way ticket to hell. Unfortunately though, every character above has range, or they just outstats him completely. The perfect example of this is number 37, actually Ace. Ace's main ability is Magellan's only weakness. Beyond that is Vista. Vista is touted as one of the greatest swordsmen on the planet, respected by Mihawk himself, matched in attack with Marco, blah blah blah. I think that's grounds for him to be in this tier. At number 35 is Queen. Nobody below him has a good way to bypass his Zoan durability. Maybe Magellan, but again, Queen can keep him at range. I'm also trolling because people don't like Queen due to him being lame and fat, even though he unironically one-shots Katakuri. Jozu comes in at number 34. He's stated to have the highest attack power among the Whitebeard pirates, higher than Marco, who was doing moderate damage to Queen. He's also just the second most prominent member who was implied to be fighting Aokiji during the war. Next up are Killer and Lucci. Both fighters are base Zoro victims, however Lucci was able to take attacks from an unserious Gear 5 Luffy. Not only that, but Killer also has internal damage attacks which can bypass Queen's durability. King was a stronger Zoro opponent with his invincibility carrying him above the others. However, this won't help him against Marco. Marco is faster than Flames on King, which would force him to use his speed mode. Marco could probably keep up with this since even base Zoro could react to it, in which case the Phoenix would be able to outlast King due to his better stamina / regen. Above Marco once again is Weevil, and y'all think I'm fucking playing. This man is not only stated to have the same strength as a young Whitebeard, but is basically a solo act in the New World. A reminder that the only ways to survive in the New World is to ally with other small crews or work under an emperor, yet Weevil was by himself. His goal is to beat characters like Marco, plus he's implied to be a legitimate clone of Whitebeard. There are a few more factors for Weevil, yet I cannot place him anywhere above the top 3 of C tier, being Sanji, Kid, and Law. Sanji, in his speed mode, is far faster than any character on this level, not to mention the Jambes he can stack on top. However, his endurance plus attack power is bad compared to Kid or Law. In addition, the speed mode is only for short bursts, with Sanji's actual speed being closer to Queen than anything. Like, if we're looking for consistency, Marco or King are still probably the fastest here. Kid versus Law is obvious, with Law having the best attack power on this tier. Don't sleep on Kid though, as he has the best endurance. B tier is where we get to the semi-top tier motherfuckers. Like, all these guys can competently fight with the emperors, though can't beat them. The perfect examples of this are Yamato and Zoro. These two are basically the same characters, so keep in mind everything I say about Zoro applies to Yamato as well. King of Hell Zoro is faster than his base form, which was already as fast as everyone in the last tier. In the fight with King, the Lunarian needed to use his speed mode to actually contest Zoro. However, not even that was enough, as Zoro's fastest named attacks are able to blitz King completely. Many use this panel of King disappearing to show how much faster he was, without mentioning the fact that Zoro literally reacted to him by blocking his kick, then completely countered him. If King moved so much faster, how did Zoro even touch him here? KOH itself is also an overall stats boost due to Advanced Conqueror's Haki, so yeah, it isn't just a speed thing, as Zoro has better / more consistent AP than anyone in the last tier. Now, this is always controversial, but I have Shiryu next. I get it, Zoro fan trying to upscale Shiryu, but come on, this fight has to happen. Not only that, but Shiryu was basically stated to be the second strongest Blackbeard pirate before Aokiji joined the crew. And people tell me Zoro isn't getting slammed by Garp like Shiryu is, but why not? I want y'all to keep this in mind when we talk about the difference between B tier and A tier. After this, we have Green Bull and Fujitora at 22 and 21 respectively. If we're being honest, there should probably be a tier gap between Shiryu and Green Bull. However, there aren't many characters in B tiers, so I decided to lump them all together. I think Green Bull's performance on Wano places him perfectly, as when Yamato steps in to fight him, he's not super pressed, though he does take her power into consideration, showing that she's a minor threat to him. Fujitora doesn't have any good feats, yet the admirals should be close to each other in terms of power, plus he's like way cooler. Above these two is Big Mom. Last year I had her below the admirals, but I feel like I do need to put more respect on Big Mom's name. She really is one of the most versatile characters in the series, and even with her dumbass battle IQ, I believe she can take one of the admirals in an extreme diff fight. However, that's mostly due to the virtue of their full capabilities not being shown yet. This ranking could completely change in the future. For the top of B tier is Oden. Kaido literally considers him stronger than Big Mom, plus it's fucking Kozuki Oden. I don't think anyone will argue with this placement. A tier and above are the real top tiers, though I have a few important changes from last year. First of which is Luffy. In his fight with Kizaru, Snake Man was easily blitzed by the admiral, though Gear 5 can actually keep up with him. Kaido shows the same difference. He blitzes Gear 4 with little effort, but then Gear 5 is a match. Keep in mind, Snake Man Luffy would be at the top of B tier, as he's stated to be at least stronger than Big Mom. Last time I had Luffy above like 3 different characters because I was on that "he defeated Kaido" wave. Now I've come to realize that opinion is false. I'll explain as I go on, but the main point is Gear 5's stamina. Luffy is a top tier for no more than 10 minutes. Everyone else on this tier is just themselves. I think the perfect example of that is Kizaru at number 17. Kizaru is only an A tier due to speed, as he has no good attack power feats. However, we directly see him outlasting Luffy, and now we know he could have just killed Straw Hat on Egghead instead of giving him food to recover. Even though he doesn't have better attack potency or endurance than Luffy, all Kizaru needed to do was outlast him. Also, I know I said earlier the admirals should be close to each other. However, Luffy's reaction to Kizaru on Egghead was completely different from Green Bull on Wano. This further supports the tier gap between B and A. Ben Beckman comes in next. Not a lot to talk about here except for a few databook statements claiming the admirals fear him, which is kind of consistent. The main thing making the Red Hair Pirates a Yonko crew is their core group, of which Ben would be the second strongest, though I don't believe he can beat Aokiji at 15. Kuzan is no longer an admiral, meaning the Ben statements don't apply to him. Also, he and Akainu should have had insane growth from fighting each other. We've seen Luffy rise exponentially in his fights with Kaido or Katakuri, which only lasted hours, whereas the two admirals fought for 10 days. Blackbeard comes in at number 14, being the captain of Aokiji. I know many believe Kuzan to be more powerful, but there's just too many factors in Teach's corner. Not only is he built up to be Luffy's final villain, but he also has an actual feat in his fight against Law, where he tanked an attack which was making even Big Mom beg. Plus, before the time skip, he already defeated Ace by himself, then went on to fight the rest of the Whitebeard pirates, with Marco implying Blackbeard's Quake powers were the main factor in those battles. Rayleigh in his prime would be next. He confirms he could have beat Blackbeard when he was younger, and Teach's reaction to him kinda supports this. Blackbeard has experience against prime Rayleigh, so it's no wonder why he was so pressed. Above that, I got the GOAT, Shanks! And maybe his brother too, I don't know, is he just as strong? This goes for the next character as well, but Shanks is implied to be the top swordsman 12 years ago when Rayleigh was 60. Then there are characters like Kaido or Big Mom who are stated to be in their primes at 60 as well. Again, this logic goes for our next placement, Mihawk. With that, I'll reveal the final two, being Akainu and Kaido. All three of these characters have arguments for being the strongest of the post-Whitebeard era, so to speak. Mihawk is better than Shanks, who is stated to stand shoulder to shoulder with Whitebeard / Kaido in power. Akainu is the most powerful marine, more so than Garp, who has the best Conqueror's Haki feat in the series. Then while I do believe Kaido's strongest creature title was a rumor, it is backed up by his insane endurance and durability the others don't have. Last year I had Kaido below Luffy, though again, I renewed my perspective. Not only does Luffy have very little stamina, but we also see Kaido blatantly outspeeding Gear 5. Of course they need to be on the same level or else their equal clash wouldn't have happened, but even so, Kaido chose to clash with Luffy. Anyways, those are the main reasons why these three should be considered the most powerful of the modern day, but I don't think they have anything on S tier. S tier, you already know, is the prime characters. The logic is very simple. Whitebeard is still the strongest man in the modern day, with his prime self being far greater. In fact, prime Whitebeard performs the same feat he did at Marineford by just screaming at Roger, not even really attacking him. There are new pieces of evidence to say characters in the last tier are level with these guys, however those are more so implications, with many other implications going against them. For me, until I see Shanks being named equal to Roger in the actual story or something along those lines, then I'm keeping this level separate. It could definitely be possible though. Now everyone in here is relative to prime Whitebeard, which is where we get our first character, Don Chinjiao. Okay, I know what you're thinking, but Chinjiao fought characters like Garp and Roger almost a decade after the God Valley incident. Keep in mind these guys were stated to be in their prime only 2 years after that event, so prime Chinjiao is an actual fucking beast. Though of course, he can't go anywhere past Sengoku or Garp. Obviously, these two were the only Marines to threaten Roger, cornering him on multiple occasions. Plus, Garp easily defeated Chinjiao after going through a training arc. Beyond the Marines are Shiki and Roger. These two are described as equals, and no, being the Pirate King does not equate to being the strongest. The title results from a blend of wealth, fame, and power. Roger just happened to possess more of the first requirements than Whitebeard. Again, he was still the strongest man even during Roger's time, even before Roger got sick, which wouldn't change things anyways. The penultimate spot on this list is Rox D. Zebek. As said last year, both Rox and Whitebeard have cases for being in this spot. Newgate didn't reach his prime until after God Valley, plus both are stated to be Roger's greatest opponent. So it could really go either way. I just like to give it to Rox due to narrative importance and all that shit. Anyways, number 1.
We're not gonna be beating him out of.
Joy Boy is without a shadow of a doubt the most powerful character in the series due to one major feat. He split the skies by himself. No other character can do this. And I know y'all are going to say, well, what about Shanks? The Giants said he was just as strong. First of all, I'm not taking conjecture as an actual feat, especially since Odin, who traveled with both Prime Whitebeard / Roger, never saw them do this. In Odin's journal, he only refers to sky splitting when they met in combat. I'm down with the idea of Shanks being as strong as them, but if he was this powerful, it would place him and Mihawk echelons beyond the rest of the series. At that point, it's just like, fuck the Yonko system, I'll do it myself, yet we know Shanks never tried to make a move like that. Even so, you can flip this the other way, saying Joy Boy and the previous tier are on Shanks' level with Luffy or Kaido. It doesn't really matter, I just put more stock into the premise that the older characters are more powerful. As I said earlier, it could be completely false, but back to Joy Boy. Not only has he displayed the most powerful haki in the entire series, but he also upscales from everything Luffy does due to him having the Nika fruit, said fruit making him the most versatile character in the series. Joy Boy is also scaring the supposed final villain, with Imu being left in shambles at just his presence. So yeah, a pretty obvious pick, and I like how last year I joked about how he wasn't on the list because he was unscalable. That concludes this year's top 50 though, so tell me in the comments what are y'all's predictions for next year. Also, for those wondering, Doflamingo is not on this list because he's that weak. However, if I had the opinions that I have now last year, he would have been there, so you're welcome.